Ladies and gentlemen, today we are not here to listen to just another success story. We are here to witness the power of resilience, courage, and belief, the power story of Joe Ranga. Joe Ranga's journey did not begin with comfort or privilege. It began with struggle, with moments where silence was louder than applause and doubt tried to overshadow dreams. But what defines a person is not where they start, it's how they rise. When the world questioned his worth, Joe chose self-belief. When obstacles blocked his path, he turned them into stepping stones. Every failure became a lesson, every setback a setup for something greater. Joe's story teaches us that true power is not physical strength or loud words. Real power is inner strength, the ability to stand firm when life tries to break you. It is the courage to keep moving forward when no one is cheering for you. Through discipline, consistency, and an unbreakable mindset, Joe Ranga transformed pain into purpose. He learned that success is not achieved overnight. It is built through daily effort, silent sacrifices, and relentless focus. Most importantly, Joe's story reminds us that success is not just about personal victory. It's about inspiring others, lifting voices, and proving that no dream is too big and no past is too heavy. The power story of Joe Ranga is a message to the world. Every powerful story begins quietly, and Joe Ranga's journey started far away from comfort, recognition, or privilege. There were no shortcuts, no guarantees, and no applause in the early days, only uncertainty, pressure, and unanswered questions. His beginnings were shaped by limitations that would have discouraged many, but for Joe they became the foundation of inner strength. In those early moments, life did not offer ease. It demanded endurance. Resources were limited, opportunities were rare, and progress was slow. While others moved ahead with support and stability, Joe had to rely on something far more powerful: determination. Each day required effort just to move forward, and each step demanded belief in a future that was not yet visible. Humble beginnings also meant being misunderstood. There were moments when people underestimated his potential, questioned his abilities, or overlooked his presence entirely. But these moments did not weaken him, they sharpened his focus. Joe learned early that validation from others is temporary, but self-belief is permanent. Instead of seeking approval, he began building confidence from within. Struggle taught him discipline. When success is not handed to you, you learn to value effort. Joe developed the habit of consistency, showing up even when motivation was low, working even when results were invisible. These early struggles trained his mindset to handle pressure, rejection, and responsibility long before success arrived. Humble beginnings also instilled gratitude. Joe understood the value of small wins because he had experienced scarcity. Progress, no matter how small, mattered. Each improvement became proof that growth was possible, and each challenge became a reminder that strength is built, not given. Most importantly, these beginnings shaped Joe's character. They taught him patience, empathy, and resilience. He did not grow bitter from hardship. He grew stronger and wiser. The struggles of the past became the blueprint for future success, creating a foundation that could not be shaken by failure or fear. This is where the power story of Joe Ranga truly begins, not at success, not at recognition, but in the quiet fight to rise when nothing was promised. The turning point in Joe Ranga's power story was not a sudden opportunity or external support. It was the moment he chose to believe in himself, even when the world offered doubt instead of encouragement. Self-belief became the silent force that carried him forward when circumstances gave him every reason to stop. In the early stages of his journey, there were voices that questioned his direction, his ability, and even his dreams. Some doubts came from others, but many came from within. Fear has a way of disguising itself as realism, and Joe faced moments where giving up seemed logical. Yet he understood something crucial. If he lost belief in himself, nothing else could save him. Self-belief for Joe was not blind confidence. It was built through action. Each small step forward, each attempt after failure, reinforced the idea that progress was possible. Even when results were slow, he trusted the process. He learned that belief grows stronger when you keep showing up despite uncertainty. There were times when support was absent and recognition non-existent. During those moments, Joe became his own motivator. He learned to speak positively to himself when negativity tried to take control. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" he asked, "What if I succeed?" That shift in mindset changed how he approached challenges. Self-belief also gave Joe courage. The courage to stand alone, to make unpopular decisions, and to take risks others avoided. While many waited for perfect conditions, Joe moved forward with imperfect confidence. He understood that waiting for validation delays growth, but trusting yourself creates momentum. Through continuous effort, discipline, and reflection, Joe's belief evolved into unshakable confidence. He no longer depended on external approval. He trusted his vision, his abilities, and his capacity to learn. That belief became his shield against criticism and his fuel during hardship. In a world that often defines worth through comparison, Joe Ranga's journey highlights the raw power of self-belief, the strength to trust your path, stay committed to your vision, and move forward even when no one else can see what you see. In the power story of Joe Ranga, struggles were never signs of weakness. They were signals of transformation. Every challenge he faced carried discomfort, pressure, and emotional weight, but instead of allowing hardship to define his limits, Joe chose to reshape it into strength. Life tested him repeatedly. There were moments of failure that left scars, setbacks that drained energy, and situations that felt unfair. Many people allow such moments to break their spirit, but Joe made a different choice. He understood that pain, when accepted and processed, can become a powerful teacher. Rather than resisting struggle, he studied it. Each difficulty sharpened his mindset. When obstacles appeared, Joe did not ask why life was hard. He asked what the hardship was trying to teach him. This shift in thinking transformed frustration into focus. He learned patience during delays, resilience during failure, and humility during loss. Struggles also strengthened his emotional endurance. Rejection no longer felt personal, it became preparation. Criticism no longer silenced him, it refined him. Every fall trained him to rise with greater awareness and control. Over time, Joe realized that strength is not the absence of pain, but the ability to function, grow, and move forward despite it. Through struggle, Joe developed mental toughness. He became comfortable with discomfort, understanding that growth lives outside the comfort zone. While others avoided hardship, he leaned into it, knowing that pressure builds capacity. Each challenge increased his confidence, proving that he could survive more than he once believed. Struggles also gave Joe clarity. They helped him identify what truly mattered and what did not. Temporary losses no longer distracted him from long-term purpose. Pain refined his priorities and strengthened his resolve to keep going, even when progress felt slow. By transforming struggle into strength, Joe Ranga turned his hardest moments into his greatest assets. What once felt like barriers became building blocks, shaping a mindset that could not be easily shaken by fear, doubt, or failure. In the power story of Joe Ranga, failure was never a final destination, it was a classroom. Each failure carried a lesson, and every setback became an opportunity to grow wiser, stronger, and more prepared for the next challenge. Instead of fearing failure, Joe learned to listen to it. There were moments when plans did not work, efforts went unnoticed, and results fell short of expectations. These experiences were discouraging, but Joe refused to label them as defeat. He understood that failure is not proof of inability, it is proof of effort. Every attempt, successful or not, moved him closer to mastery. Joe developed the habit of reflection. When something went wrong, he asked meaningful questions. What can I improve? What mistake should not be repeated? What skill needs development? This mindset turned loss into knowledge and disappointment into direction. Failure became feedback, not judgment. Failure also built emotional resilience. Over time, Joe stopped fearing embarrassment or criticism. He realized that most growth happens after things fall apart. Each failure thickened his skin and strengthened his confidence, teaching him that survival is possible even after major setbacks. Through repeated failures, Joe learned adaptability. He adjusted strategies, refined his approach, and improved his decision-making. Rather than stubbornly repeating the same actions, he evolved. This flexibility allowed him to grow beyond limitations and approach challenges with sharper awareness. Most importantly, failure taught Joe humility and patience. Success was no longer rushed or demanded, it was earned through persistence. He learned to respect the process, understanding that progress often looks like failure before it looks like success. By treating failure as a teacher rather than an enemy, Joe Ranga transformed setbacks into stepping stones, building wisdom that no success alone could ever provide. In the power story of Joe Ranga, true strength was never measured by status, influence, or external recognition. It was measured by something far deeper, inner power. While outer power can impress others, inner power defines who a person becomes when no one is watching. Joe learned early that external circumstances are unstable. Positions change, opinions shift, and applause fades. Relying on outer power alone leaves a person vulnerable. Instead, Joe invested in developing control over his thoughts, emotions, and reactions. This inner stability became his greatest advantage. Inner power allowed Joe to remain calm during chaos. When pressure increased and uncertainty surrounded him, he did not panic. He understood that losing emotional control weakens decision-making. By mastering his mindset, he maintained clarity even in difficult situations, allowing him to act with purpose rather than impulse. This inner strength also gave him independence. Joe did not need constant validation to feel worthy. Praise did not inflate his ego, and criticism did not destroy his confidence. He understood that self-respect is stronger than public approval, and inner peace is more powerful than external dominance. Through discipline and self-awareness, Joe developed the ability to push forward even when motivation was absent. Inner power taught him consistency, the ability to work without encouragement and continue without recognition. This quiet endurance set him apart from those who depended on external rewards to keep going. Inner power also shaped Joe's leadership. Instead of controlling others, he led by example. His confidence inspired trust, his composure inspired respect, and his humility inspired connection. People followed him not because of authority but because of authenticity. By choosing inner power over outer power, Joe Ranga built a form of strength that could not be taken away by failure, loss, or opposition. In the power story of Joe Ranga, success was never the result of luck or sudden breakthroughs. It was built through discipline and consistency, practiced quietly every day when no one was watching. Joe understood that motivation comes and goes, but discipline remains when emotions fade. Discipline taught Joe structure. He learned to control his time, energy, and focus, knowing that unmanaged habits lead to wasted potential. Even on days when progress felt slow or invisible, he stayed committed to his routine. He trusted that small, repeated actions would eventually create massive change. Consistency became Joe's greatest weapon. While others worked only when inspired, he showed up daily. He did not wait for perfect conditions or ideal moods. He worked through tiredness, doubt, and discouragement, understanding that effort compounds over time. What seemed ordinary on a daily basis slowly became extraordinary. There were moments when results did not match the effort. These were the true tests of consistency. Joe chose patience over frustration. He reminded himself that growth often happens silently before it becomes visible. By continuing without immediate reward, he strengthened his endurance and belief in the process. Discipline also sharpened Joe's focus. He learned to say no to distractions that pulled him away from his goals. Short-term pleasure was sacrificed for long-term purpose. This self-control separated him from those who started strong but failed to finish. Over time, discipline shaped Joe's identity. He was no longer someone who tried, he became someone who finished. Consistency turned effort into habit, habit into mastery, and mastery into confidence. Through daily commitment, Joe Ranga built a foundation strong enough to support lasting success. In the power story of Joe Ranga, success was never the final goal, it was a responsibility. As his journey progressed, Joe realized that personal achievement alone is limited, but purpose gives success meaning. He understood that real power lies not in what you gain, but in what you give back. Joe's struggles made him deeply aware of others facing similar challenges. He remembered what it felt like to be unheard, underestimated, and overlooked. This awareness shaped his purpose. Instead of forgetting his past, he used it as a bridge to connect with others, turning his journey into a source of hope. Purpose guided Joe's decisions. He chose paths that aligned with impact rather than ego. Recognition became secondary to contribution. Whether through words, actions, or leadership, he focused on lifting others instead of competing with them. He believed that true success multiplies when shared. Joe's story became a voice for those still struggling. By being open about hardship, failure, and growth, he removed the illusion of overnight success. This honesty inspired trust and motivated others to persist through their own challenges. His purpose was not to appear perfect but to be real. Living with purpose also strengthened Joe during difficult times. When motivation weakened, purpose reminded him why he started. When obstacles appeared, purpose gave him the strength to continue. It became a compass that kept him aligned with his values, even when the journey became demanding. Through purpose beyond success, Joe Ranga transformed personal growth into collective inspiration, proving that the most powerful legacy is not achievement alone, but the lives influenced along the way. In the power story of Joe Ranga, the most defining trait was not talent, opportunity, or recognition. It was a never-quit mentality. This mindset became the backbone of his journey, especially during moments when giving up felt easier than continuing. There were phases where progress stalled, effort seemed wasted, and the gap between dreams and reality felt overwhelming. In those moments, quitting appeared logical. But Joe made a conscious decision to keep moving forward, even if the pace was slow. He understood that stopping guarantees failure, while persistence keeps possibility alive. The never-quit mentality was built through repeated endurance. Each time Joe faced exhaustion, rejection, or disappointment, he chose endurance over escape. He allowed himself to feel tired but never allowed himself to stop. This ability to continue despite emotional and mental pressure separated him from those who surrendered early. Quitting often disguises itself as rest, fear, or self-doubt. Joe learned to recognize these signals and respond with awareness rather than reaction. Instead of abandoning his path, he adjusted his approach. He rested when needed, learned when required, and returned stronger rather than walking away. This mindset also strengthened his confidence. Every challenge he survived became proof of his resilience. The memory of past endurance reminded him that current struggles were temporary. Over time, persistence turned into self-trust, the belief that no matter how difficult the situation he could handle it. The never-quit mentality did not mean ignoring reality, it meant refusing to let temporary hardship define permanent outcomes. Through consistency, patience, and inner strength, Joe Ranga built a mindset that refused to surrender, regardless of how demanding the journey became. In the power story of Joe Ranga, vision played a critical role in shaping his journey. While many people become trapped by their current circumstances, Joe trained himself to see beyond the present, beyond temporary struggles, and beyond immediate results. His vision acted as a guiding force when clarity was missing and outcomes were uncertain. Joe understood that without a clear vision, effort becomes directionless. From early on he developed the habit of thinking long-term. Even when progress was slow, he remained focused on where he wanted to go rather than where he currently stood. This future-focused mindset prevented him from becoming discouraged by short-term failures. Vision gave meaning to sacrifice. When comfort had to be delayed and pleasures postponed, Joe reminded himself of the bigger picture. He knew that temporary discomfort was a price worth paying for lasting growth. This clarity allowed him to stay disciplined while others lost focus due to impatience. Long-term focus also protected Joe from distractions. Many opportunities appear attractive but pull a person away from their true path. Joe learned to evaluate choices based on alignment with his vision rather than immediate rewards. This ability to say no strengthened his progress and preserved his energy. There were moments when results did not validate his efforts. During these times, vision kept him grounded. He trusted that progress was unfolding even when it was not visible. Instead of reacting emotionally to setbacks, he remained strategically patient, understanding that meaningful success takes time. Vision also fueled resilience. When challenges arose, Joe did not see them as roadblocks but as part of the journey toward something greater. His belief in the future version of himself gave him the strength to endure the present, keeping his actions aligned with his long-term purpose. In the power story of Joe Ranga, one of the most important lessons was the ability to embrace change. Life is unpredictable, circumstances shift, and what works today may not work tomorrow. Joe understood that resistance to change leads to stagnation, while adaptability fuels growth and opens doors to new opportunities. From early in his journey, Joe faced situations that demanded flexibility. Plans fell apart, environments shifted, and unexpected challenges emerged. Instead of resisting, he learned to observe, assess, and adjust. Change became less of a threat and more of a tool, an invitation to evolve. Embracing change required humility. Joe recognized that clinging to old methods or outdated ideas limits potential. He stayed open to learning, to feedback, and to new perspectives, even when it challenged his comfort zone. By remaining teachable, he turned uncertainty into a chance for improvement. Adaptability also enhanced problem-solving. When faced with obstacles, Joe didn't insist on a single path. He experimented, iterated, and tried alternative solutions. This proactive mindset transformed setbacks into opportunities to innovate. Instead of viewing change as disruption, he saw it as a catalyst for progress. Change also strengthened his resilience. By accepting that life will not always follow plans, Joe avoided frustration and burnout. Instead of being derailed by unexpected events, he maintained focus on his goals while modifying the approach. Flexibility became a form of control in an uncontrollable world. Through embracing change, Joe Ranga learned that growth is not linear. Success requires evolution, learning from new experiences, and letting go of habits or beliefs that no longer serve. This ability to adapt and transform ensured that he stayed ahead, turning every challenge into an opportunity for advancement. In the power story of Joe Ranga, one of the lesser discussed yet critical elements of his journey was the importance of building a strong support system. While personal effort and determination are vital, no one achieves greatness entirely alone. Joe realized early on that surrounding himself with the right people would amplify his growth and provide resilience during difficult times. Joe's support system was not about popularity or quantity, it was about quality and alignment. He carefully chose mentors, peers, and collaborators who shared his vision, values, and work ethic. These were people who could provide honest feedback, celebrate progress without envy, and challenge him to reach higher levels of performance. Support also came from emotional connections. Joe learned that sharing struggles, doubts, and aspirations with trusted individuals eased the weight of responsibility. Emotional backing gave him the courage to take risks and step into the unknown, knowing that even if failure occurred, there were people to provide encouragement and guidance. Mentorship played a significant role in shaping his approach. Experienced individuals offered insights and perspectives that accelerated his learning curve. Joe was willing to listen, ask questions, and apply lessons, understanding that wisdom gained from others is far more efficient than trial and error alone. Collaboration within his network fostered creativity and innovation. Engaging with like-minded individuals allowed Joe to combine skills, perspectives, and resources to tackle challenges he could not solve alone. These connections provided not just support but leverage, helping him scale his efforts more effectively. Finally, Joe understood reciprocity. He did not seek support purely for personal gain. He also contributed value to his network. By inspiring, mentoring, and assisting others, he created a circle of trust and mutual growth, reinforcing a powerful environment where everyone could thrive. Through building a strong support system, Joe Ranga transformed his journey from solitary struggle into a collective effort, proving that even the most determined individuals need connection, guidance, and collaboration to truly succeed. In the power story of Joe Ranga, two qualities consistently shaped his journey: patience and persistence. While ambition and talent can spark initial progress, it is these quiet, enduring forces that sustain long-term success. Joe understood that meaningful achievements are rarely instant. They are cultivated over time through steady effort. Patience allowed Joe to endure periods when results were slow or invisible. Early in his journey, he faced long stretches where hard work seemed to produce little reward. Instead of becoming frustrated or rushing for shortcuts, he trusted the process. He knew that success is rarely immediate, and waiting with focus is far more productive than acting hastily. Persistence was equally vital. Joe cultivated the habit of showing up every day, regardless of obstacles, fatigue, or doubt. He recognized that consistency and effort compounds over time, creating exponential results. Each small action, repeated faithfully, built the foundation for significant accomplishments. Patience and persistence together shaped Joe's mindset. He became resilient to setbacks, understanding that temporary failures are not permanent. Instead of abandoning goals when challenges arose, he viewed difficulties as part of the journey. These qualities strengthened his emotional endurance, allowing him to maintain motivation even in adversity. By combining patience with persistence, Joe avoided the trap of short-term thinking. He focused on long-term impact rather than immediate gratification. This approach gave him the discipline to prioritize actions that aligned with his ultimate goals, ensuring steady progress toward his vision. Moreover, patience and persistence fostered self-confidence. Each small success, achieved through continuous effort, reinforced the belief that obstacles could be overcome. Over time, Joe developed an unshakable trust in his ability to navigate challenges, knowing that perseverance and patience would always guide him forward. Through these quiet forces, Joe Ranga demonstrated that true achievement is built not on speed or luck, but on the steady, unwavering commitment to keep moving, learning, and growing no matter how long the journey takes. In the power story of Joe Ranga, one of the pivotal elements of his growth was the ability to embrace responsibility. Joe understood early that success, failure, and the outcomes of his actions were ultimately his own. Instead of blaming circumstances, others, or luck, he chose to take full ownership of his life, decisions, and goals. Embracing responsibility meant acknowledging that his past struggles did not define him. While external conditions presented challenges, Joe refused to see them as excuses for inaction. Every decision, every mistake, and every opportunity became a personal accountability point, a chance to learn and improve rather than a reason to complain or give up. This mindset created empowerment. By taking ownership, Joe realized that he had the power to shape his destiny. He stopped waiting for someone else to fix situations or hand him success. Instead, he focused on actions he could control, prioritizing productive choices over passive lamentation. Responsibility also strengthened his discipline. Joe became accountable for how he spent his time, energy, and resources. He did not rely on motivation alone. He relied on structured effort and commitment to meet his goals. By owning both successes and failures, he cultivated self-reliance and reliability. Furthermore, embracing responsibility extended to relationships and leadership. Joe held himself accountable to the people he worked with, inspired, or influenced. He led by example, showing that true leaders take responsibility not only for themselves but for the outcomes of the teams and communities they guide. By consistently owning his actions, Joe Ranga developed integrity, trustworthiness, and resilience. Responsibility transformed challenges into lessons, setbacks into opportunities, and ambition into purposeful action, creating a foundation for enduring success. In the power story of Joe Ranga, courage was a defining trait, but not just the courage to face fear, it was the courage to take calculated risks. Joe understood that growth and extraordinary achievement often live on the edge of uncertainty, beyond the comfort of familiar routines and predictable outcomes. From the beginning, Joe faced decisions that required stepping into the unknown. There were opportunities that seemed too big, challenges that appeared daunting, and paths that were untested. Many would have avoided them for safety, but Joe embraced the mindset that risk is a necessary companion to progress. Taking risks meant more than acting impulsively, it required careful assessment, planning, and self-confidence. Joe learned to evaluate potential outcomes, prepare for setbacks, and commit fully when the opportunity aligned with his vision. Courage, for him, was not the absence of fear, it was the willingness to act despite fear. Risks also expanded his capacity for learning. Every decision that pushed him beyond comfort brought new experiences, insights, and skills. Even when risks did not yield immediate success, the lessons gained became invaluable. Joe realized that avoiding risk limits growth, while embracing it fosters adaptability and resilience. Courage to take risks also shaped his leadership and influence. By modeling bold decision-making and fearlessness in action, Joe inspired others to step beyond their own limitations. His example demonstrated that true progress often requires leaving familiar ground to explore new possibilities. Moreover, embracing risk reinforced his confidence and self-trust. With each calculated step into uncertainty, Joe strengthened his belief in his judgment, abilities, and resilience. He understood that fortune favors those willing to act and that hesitation often costs more than failure. Through the courage to take risks, Joe Ranga transformed fear into fuel, opportunity into action, and potential into tangible achievement, proving that stepping beyond comfort is essential for creating a life of impact and greatness. In the power story of Joe Ranga, one of his most remarkable qualities was his ability for visionary thinking. Joe did not simply react to the world as it appeared. He imagined what could be, even when others were limited by the present. This ability to envision possibilities allowed him to create opportunities in situations where most would only see barriers. From the early stages of his journey, Joe trained himself to look beyond immediate challenges and constraints. He learned to identify potential where others saw risk and to anticipate future trends before they became obvious. Visionary thinking meant that he approached every problem not just as a difficulty, but as a puzzle that could be solved with creativity, insight, and strategy. Joe's visionary mindset also fostered innovation. By imagining solutions outside conventional thinking, he developed strategies and approaches that were unique and effective. He understood that progress often requires breaking patterns, challenging assumptions, and taking unconventional paths. While others were hesitant to move forward, Joe's foresight allowed him to act decisively and seize opportunities. This perspective helped him navigate uncertainty with confidence. Instead of being paralyzed by obstacles, Joe asked, "What can I create from this situation?" His ability to see possibilities turned setbacks into platforms for growth. Challenges were no longer roadblocks but stepping stones toward something greater. Visionary thinking also influenced his leadership and influence. Joe inspired those around him by painting a clear picture of what could be achieved. His clarity of vision motivated others to believe in goals that initially seemed unattainable, creating a culture of possibility and ambition. Through visionary thinking, Joe Ranga demonstrated that true power lies in the mind's ability to imagine, innovate, and act on possibilities, transforming ordinary situations into extraordinary outcomes. In the power story of Joe Ranga, resilience under pressure was one of the most defining traits that fueled his success. Life, as Joe experienced it, was never without intense challenges, tight deadlines, high expectations, and unforeseen crises. What set him apart was not the absence of pressure but his ability to remain composed, focused, and effective under it. From early in his journey, Joe faced situations that could easily overwhelm anyone. Critical decisions had to be made with limited information, resources were scarce, and outcomes often carried significant consequences. While many would succumb to stress or panic, Joe learned to treat pressure as a test of his capabilities rather than a threat to his progress. Resilience under pressure required mastery over both mind and emotions. Joe developed the habit of staying calm when others were reactive, thinking clearly in chaos, and responding with rational, strategic action. He understood that decisions made under panic rarely lead to optimal results, whereas a composed mindset unlocks creativity, problem-solving, and innovation. Pressure also became a tool for growth. Joe saw high-stakes situations as opportunities to stretch his limits, strengthen his skills, and prove to himself that he could handle more than he initially believed. Each challenge faced under pressure increased his confidence and reinforced his ability to endure future difficulties. This resilience had a ripple effect on those around him. By maintaining composure during critical moments, Joe inspired trust, instilled confidence, and created a sense of stability within his teams or collaborators. People looked to him as an anchor during turbulent times, knowing that his steadiness would guide them through uncertainty. Through resilience under pressure, Joe Ranga transformed stress into strength, adversity into opportunity, and high-stakes moments into defining milestones of his journey, showing that the ability to thrive under pressure is a cornerstone of extraordinary achievement. The journey of Joe Ranga teaches us a powerful truth. Greatness is not about luck, privilege, or circumstance. It is about the choices we make, the mindset we cultivate, and the persistence we embody. From humble beginnings to relentless pursuit of growth, from embracing failure to mastering emotional intelligence, Joe's story is a blueprint for anyone striving to turn challenges into opportunities and dreams into reality. His life reminds us that strength is built, not given, and success is earned through resilience, discipline, and purpose. But perhaps the most inspiring lesson is this: the power to change your life, and the lives of others, lies within you. So, take the lessons of Joe Ranga's journey to heart. Believe in yourself when no one else does. Persist when the path is hard. Transform struggles into strength. And remember, your story can inspire, uplift, and create impact far beyond what you imagine. The power story of Joe Ranga is not just his, it is a call to action for all of us to rise, persist, and achieve our highest potential. Thank you.